June 24th special Park and Rec and Community Ed meeting at 5:03 p.m. And the video or call will be muted upon joining the meeting, and the chat function will not be used by the commission or public as it violates the open meeting law. Please use the raise your hand feature in the Zoom meeting to ask to speak. And the meeting is now called to order.
All right. So I wanted to have a special meeting just so we could talk about a couple of things that have changed and kind of give you some updates as well. As of phase 2, we are allowed to open the playgrounds. There are very specific requirements at this point in time. And one of them is, so we do not have to sanitize, that is directly from the Board of Health and the CDC guidelines. But they do ask that we clean frequently used areas, which honestly, we never have. So I did talk to Board of Health about this, and they said that, you know, if folks are using, if we can add to the sign, you know, to wash your hands and hand sanitize, that, you know, that would be something we want people to do, you know, when they get there and then when they leave. So that would be acceptable. Because I know, Mike, you had asked that question specifically about the cleaning policies and procedures. So
are we gonna provide sanitized stations there? You know, let's say, is that something we're gonna provide?
So I mean, we really don't have the money to be quite honest. So that's something that, you know, yeah, realistically, I don't think that we have the ability to buy and to keep you know, filling all of these like hand sanitizer stations and things like that. So the one thing, we'll have to get the porta potties back out there, and the porta potty does have hand sanitizer in it. But, you know, we would be asking people to essentially bring their own hand sanitizer with them when they, you know, are visiting.
Okay.
So this was the sign that I sent out to you guys. I'll just scroll down so you can see the rest of the stuff. And just, you know, give me, I know some of the spacing needs to be worked on, so I will do that. That's no big problem, but I wanted to get this out and make sure you all had it. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything that you want me to add or change, take off, whatever.
Does it make sense to state that we will not be cleaning?
It says right up here that the playground equipment is not sanitized. You mean like specifically cleaned?
Yeah, well, in the CDC recommendations, they make a distinction between sanitized and cleaning. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it makes sense to spell it out and say, you know, we're not sanitizing or cleaning. You know, just because they make the distinction with the guidelines.
Okay.
It's a question I'm asking.
Yeah. And the conversation that I had with our Board of Health agent, it sounded like that if we do, and this is the one thing that I would change on here. So at the bottom statement where it says wash your hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer frequently, I would change, keep frequently, but then, you know, add the piece of before and after you use the play equipment.
Yep.
But I will ask him about the clarifying if I need to add the playground equipment is not sanitized or cleaned.
I just think it would be beneficial if somebody's going to try to split hairs between the CDC guidelines. That's all.
Yep, I hear you.
Were we going to do some sort of announcement that these were open?
Typically we just do like social media posts and have it up on the website, or do like a news alert, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I'm just meant anything. That's fine.
Yeah, it kind of spreads like wildfire once you get it out on social media.
No, sorry, Mike. I was just going to say, my thought would be, not put into that, we're not cleaning it or sanitizing, and here's what's happening, and that sort of covers it. So they're not surprised when they get to the park and see this sign. That was all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I also think it's kind of you know, it's probably going to be, very obvious that something's changed or it's open, and people will look just because, the blockage that's there is going to be removed, right? That's
Right.
still there. I guess I haven't driven by there in a while. But.
Yeah, it is still there. One of the things that I'm suggesting, we don't have to do this, but I am suggesting because I am concerned about, we already have an overuse problem as it is. And we see people parking, on the grass. Before COVID happened, that was one of the first things that we had a conversation with was, reviewing the pictures that I took of all of the damage that's been done to the grass because people have been parking in spaces that are not parking lots or, parking spaces. So I want to see if we can work with highway and see if we actually might be able to put out like snow fencing or something around the parking lot. But I additionally would want to add in the barricades and the A-frames that we have and close every other parking spot, similar to what Tim did down at the beach, just so we can try to reduce the capacity at that park at the time, and just kind of play it and see how it goes. And then, like the beach, if we feel like things are going okay, and, it happened that we moved into phase 2, and so we were able to take down those barricades. But I kind of want to use them as a soft opening. Let's see how this goes. Are people respecting it? Are they taking their trash with them? Are they leaving masks all over the place, gloves, etc.? So those are the type of things that I want to make sure that the rules are being followed and that, it makes sense to keep it open to the public.
I like that idea.
Okay.
If we're going to do that, are we going to be clear that, if there's no parking spaces, then you need to come back at a different time?
So this sign says that if the playground is crowded, and I could change it to playground and parking lot or something like that is crowded, please try another time. Practice social distancing and please maintain 6 feet apart.
I think if you just tweak that a little bit, Alicia, to just say if the lot is full, please try back.
Yeah, I think your comment makes sense, and everybody that's in this meeting will get it. Oh, it's too crowded. But if you leave that open to interpretation.
Okay.
Does it make sense to add on here too, please restrict your use of the park to 1 hour to allow time for other people? Do we want to put something like that, just like a courtesy reminder?
I don't think that's a bad idea. Tim or Alicia, what is the phase 3 would affect us how? I'm just thinking time frame wise, this could only be potentially for a short amount of time. Does phase 3 open? I mean, how does that we don't even know. Okay. All right.
So the issue is this, Sean. We had this awesome 4-phase plan, and then with the governor wanting to get other businesses in line, we went to having a plan that included phase 2, phase 2. So there was a second phase that was added in. So none of us know where phase 3 is at right now. It hasn't been amended.
All right. I'm just thinking time frame wise, if this is only going to be for a few weeks but okay.
Yeah. So I honestly, we don't have an answer. We don't know what's going to change. And, there's always suggestions. I think they said, was it July 2nd? Somewhere in that first week of July, they were going to talk about, phase 3. But as the phrase always goes, it's based off of statistics, not solid dates. So, when the state feels like it makes, it makes sense to move into that next one and it's safe to, next phase, I should say, then that's what we want to do.
All right.
We have Saul on here too, and Saul has been part of the Littleton Children's Fund. So I just wanted to check in with Saul and see if he has any input as well.
No, I think it sounds good. One thought was, just on terms of the staying for an hour, that's sort of something you could say if it's crowded or if it's, filled, then please limit usage or, be considerate, something like that.
Consider. I'm writing stuff down as you're saying stuff, so consider limiting use. Okay.
This is a good sign, and it's actually a sign that could work forever. Right? I mean, I don't see anything on there. No, honestly, is there anything on there you'd say, you know what? Let's take that off, or let's take the sign down. The hour limit thing, two things. One, if you have too much stuff, and I'm the most guilty person in this group probably, I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to stop somewhere down the line. If you put the time frame thing on something else that can come off or isn't a permanent part of this, then the sign, we could leave that up forever, and we could play with the time frame part as we go, perhaps. I hate to see the sign. I think I like the sign the way it is. You've got a bunch of little, oh my God, I can't think of the word, but
icons.
Yeah, thank you. And there's what, 6 bullet points?
Yeah.
And let's not add anything more that's going to sort of force people to read, and we can just have a banner underneath that doesn't have to be, I don't know, however you want to do it, but I maybe go that route for the 1 hour. And then as things change and the phases change, it would give us the opportunity to leave this sign up and make some adjustments. Just a thought.
So the only other thing I want to ask the group, and Fred, we would definitely have to put this on a separate sign based off of your request right there. Would we like to say that, so that we have no way to enforce this unless somebody goes down there? But let's just say we get a call, it's absolutely packed, everything else. Do we want to say that Castle in the Trees, just like the beach, was residents only as we start to get our legs under this? Like I said, all that does is give us the ability to enforce it if we had to.
I don't think people are going to abide by it.
I don't either. But if we got a call on the phone and we went down there and there were signs up and we check status, it's a way to residency status. It's just another way to be able to kind of clear that out if we had to. I'm just throwing it out there as something because everybody knows how busy that park gets.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that we've talked about before, and it's, during this time of a pandemic, we're using all kinds of different tools to be able to limit capacity, because that's what keeps being asked of us time and time again is, reduce it to 25% of, I guess 75% of what the normal usage would be, so we're constantly being given like these percentages as far as capacity goes. So it's one tool that you can use. So I don't know how I feel about it, just because I don't think people are going to abide by it. But, Tim does have a fair point that if the police do go down there, it's one piece that, allows them to make a decision or make any enforcement. Again, I don't know if that's really true. I don't know if they could do that, but I don't know.
So I guess I was extending this to we're opening up the basketball courts as well, correct?
So that's the next conversation that we have to have, because it's all entwined.
It is. I think it's going to be difficult to open one without the other.
Correct.
But if you open up the playground and put that restriction, you put it on the basketball. I know the group that plays basketball down there, and a good number of them are not from Littleton.
Yeah. So just as we talked about when we talked about opening the basketball courts last time, If that's something, and we decided to keep them closed because we didn't feel that people would be just doing skills and drills, and that you'd have people down there doing pickup games. And so that was a choice that was made by the commission the last time we had a meeting. So if you want to continue to do that, we can put snow fencing around the basketball courts, and just like we did at the playgrounds that are down at the beach. And so those would be off limits to the public at this time, if you so choose.
I would prefer to keep the basketball courts closed. I just don't think, the playgrounds are in this phase. We're allowed to do it. I thought we were going to maybe think about running the basketball courts just like the other athletic fields and have the town groups have a plan. So I think until there's a plan in place, we also going to open ourselves up to now the sporting fields. People can say, well, you open up the basketball courts. How come you're treating the basketball courts differently than the athletic fields? And it just kind of goes down that circular argument.
And I would have been fine leaving the playground alone for the time being, but the Board of Health had a meeting last week where they made a decision that it would be fine to open the playgrounds again.
So are we just talking King, or are we also talking about the playground at the beach?
So at this point in time, again, you guys have purview over those things. So, if we do want to open the one at the beach, we could do that and put the same signage out there. If you want to open Fay Park, same thing. We could put signage out there. Or if you choose that, you just want to open Castle and that's it, that's your purview.
I don't see a reason that would actually help alleviate some of the crowding issue if you open, all of the playgrounds.
Possibly.
Yeah. Did the youth basketball group, either Bo or Mike Fontanella, get back to you? No.
Nope.
All right.
Nope. Tim, do you have any input about the playground down at the beach at all?
No, I'm perfectly on board opening it up. Like I said, a couple weeks ago, if we wanted to do that one as a test one, but now that we're, further down the road, I have no objections to it. I mean, that playground is all metal and plastic and,
Thanks to the sun.
yeah. So, no, I don't have any issues. I think parents are going to make the decisions on their own if they're going to let their kids do it or not. And that's their decisions to make.
Right. So I guess we're at maybe the question that's kind of hanging out there is, do we want to have separate signage for Littleton residents only and the hour time slots?
Yeah, so I would say if you guys, I would probably suggest making a couple of different motions. So one, if you're okay with this sign, well, we should talk about the amendments, right? Which is Sean, you're just talking about that. But I want to, if you guys approve this or an amended version of this, I would like to make those amendments and then take it to the Board of Health agent again, have him review it and make sure that he is completely okay with it before we start printing them and putting them up.
Okay, go ahead.
I have one additional question. Do we know what other towns are doing with their playgrounds? Are they
A lot of towns are using this. A lot of towns are going our equipment's not sanitized, use at your own risk.
What about limiting and saying, residents only?
That I haven't seen a lot of information on, to be honest.
And it might be something worth talking to the police chief about. I hate to set his guys up for a situation where it turns out maybe they can't enforce it. You know what I mean? And I want to make sure that they have the authority to do that, so we're not setting up for a confrontation that possibly could ensue where they don't really have the grounds to even do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
To that point, Sean, it's going to be just like the beach. It's we're going to enforce that or nobody's going to enforce it. And, the second part of our conversation tonight is, their enforcement is, once the beach can be closed or once the park can be closed is when they'll enforce the trespass. That's why that's our next thing down there. So
Okay.
I think that Castle will fall the same way, and that's what I said. It would really be for myself or Alicia or whoever we deem to go down there when we get a call that it's crazy busy, to have the ability to say, well, it's residents only right now, we need you to go. And then just my second thought was, rather than amend this sign, it might make sense to just have two very different signs. So this sign belongs on the play equipment, and there's a sign that goes in the parking lot that says, the parking lot is full, please come back. Please limit your time to 1 hour, and whatever the other bullet point that we had. So those would be the two separate signs you would have. One would just be based on the parking lot and that information. The other one would be just on the playground once you're already in.
Okay. Is that a position you guys feel comfortable? I guess then, would if you guys are going to be doing the enforcing, is that something you feel comfortable having to do if we do say to have it only for town residents?
I mean, we've been doing it down at the beach, so.
Yeah.
But you've been down there though,
Right.
on a more frequent
What's
basis. We've had a presence at the beach pretty much, every hour that we're that it's open.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case here for the.
So that's why, we really don't, I don't have the time. Our staff doesn't have the time. We don't have
Right.
extra seasonal staff that can sit down there and really manage it. So this is why this signage is super important. So that, if we do get a phone call or an email that like, oh my gosh, it's a crazy zoo out there, then I can, make the effort to go down and say, hey folks, it's, if you guys decide it was residents only, it's residents only. So if you're not from Littleton, you got to go. If you've been here for, over an hour, please let some other people come in and have their chance. It just allows us to be able to have some backing when we go and we have these conversations.
If you guys want to enforce something like that, I'm fine with it. I do know in the past historically, because I've played basketball down there. More often than not, a good number of the people taking advantage of Castle are from out of town.
Yeah.
So, I would take your lead on this. If you feel like it's a good idea, to at least from a measured approach to start off with, and whether. And I just don't know how well, we can enforce it. The other thing is, part of the concern I have is, will it set up for confrontations if people are down there and notice non-residents taking advantage of it? Is it, going to cause issues down there? You know what I'm saying?
No, what do you mean? Can you clarify?
Let's say say Littleton residents only, and there are a bunch of people, it's crowded, and there are a bunch of people there that are not Littleton residents. Is it going to cause, a confrontational, environment? People.
I mean, there's always a possibility for that, but I think in general, people have been, especially down at the beach, we've seen pretty respectful about it. And, a lot of times you get the like, oh yeah, I'm from Littleton. And then you have to follow up and say, well, I need to see a driver's license. And, once you see that, oh, well, it's going to say Holden, but I'm actually from Littleton. So, and then you have to have the conversation of nice try, but you got to go. So it's all about how it's handled and whoever comes in and has the conversation with them. Yeah, I can't guarantee anything.
It's not necessarily that we're going to actually be enforcing this on a day-to-day thing. It's
Correct.
If we get a phone call, it's a tool that we have in our belt.
Yep.
That if we, if it is a zoo down there, it's a way that we can do it. Otherwise, it's just clear the whole park out and reclose it, or wait until, the next conversation we're going to have where we can say, no, this is what time it's closed. Everybody's got to go.
It seems to me that I'm hearing the recommendation, at least Tim, from you and Alicia, is to add, to make it Littleton residents only, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have a problem if it's something that you guys are advocating for or that you'd like, then
Right.
I don't have a problem with it, because ultimately it ends in your lap, the enforcement. So,
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, it's a good place to start. Again, if that can be used, like we said, as that tool to be able to restrict the capacity, just as we would use the barricades in the parking lot, it's worth the effort, and we can always come back and revisit. None of this stuff is set in stone forever. Every decision, all of the policies that we're making right now have been consistently fluid and change day to day, week to week. And, so if we have to come back and have another special meeting in a week or 2 weeks to revisit this and change it, then we do. It's no
Okay.
big deal.
Two things. One, it would be good then on whatever social media you use to put, for the time being, it's only going to be residents, and make that the other thing would be, and I don't know what the deal with that sign that we've got there now is, but could we stick that in one of the blocked off spaces and say park only in valid spaces?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to miss that.
Mhm.
They're going to.
You mean the giant Sinosaurus that's down there?
Yeah, I'm still smarting over the ticket I got at Westfield State for parking on a surface not intended for automobiles. So,
My wife would like you to know that she also got that ticket when she was there.
Yeah, I was at a state track meet. It was with the high school. So, yeah, and they actually, I didn't pay it, and then I couldn't register my car, so I learned my lesson. I was so annoyed. But anyways, I think a sign, if we use that at least temporarily, so people aren't parking on the grass, they'll have no excuse for not knowing that you couldn't park there.
Gotcha.
So let's see if we've got this. We want a motion to open the playgrounds at Castle and Trees, Fay Park, in the beach.
Once we're ready.
Once you're ready. No. But once you're ready, and then it will be for residents only. And then you're going to need a motion to approve the sign.
So the sign, because it sounds like I'm going to have to make some changes. So if you are okay with me amending based off of what we've talked about here, and I get approval through the Board of Health agent, I might suggest that, so that we don't have to come back and meet again. If you're okay, I'm not going to change, anything really about this, just add some of those pieces to it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So I would make the motion of, once the sign is approved by the Board of Health agent, and the department is able to post them, that, we can open the playground.
Do you want me to make a motion? I can make one.
You do what you like, Mike.
I'd like to make a motion to open Castle, Fay Park, the beach playgrounds, with signage to be posted based on the
VOH agent.
the changes that we've put forth in this meeting, and to be approved by the Board of Health.
Yeah.
It will also be explicit that it's at least initially for Littleton residents only.
Okay.
second.
All right. All in favor. Mike?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well, and the motion passes. All right.
All right, so let me take this down, and then we will move back to this. All right. So I'm going to let Tim kind of take this over a little bit here, because we want to, like he said, this might be prudent for us to use on the facilities across the board for this time frame. But I'll let him talk about the open and close times to help to the police to be able to enforce the guidelines. We've kind of touched on it a bit here.
So it's very short and sweet. Friday was probably the busiest day after hours that we've had since we started actually enforcing the beach. It was very busy. We did have one resident, Michael Colston, who had left me a voicemail as well as sent me some pictures. Kaz was down there. He confirmed that, it was pretty busy. So, in talking with Mike had reached out to the PD. The PD basically said, reach out to Park and Rec. They're the ones enforcing it. The limitations that the PD has is that they can only enforce the trespass order after, the dawn to dusk rule. So, dusk being 9 o'clock when they went down there, when they were called, there was really nothing that they could do to thin out the herd per se. So what the conversation I had with Jeff was, would it be helpful if we amended the times during this COVID time for, not just the beach, but possibly all the parks as we look at opening up different facilities where rather than it say the park closes at dusk, we say the park closes at 6 or 7, whenever we're going to staff it to. And then at that point, the trespass order could be enforced at that time rather than not being able to be enforced until it's dark. So that was where this conversation came from, and I'll kind of let you guys ask questions or hash it out. But it's really just to give the PD some legs to be able to clear the beach in that situation.
Have you reached out to the the Lake Association members around there? My guess is that, they're going to be unhappy that they're going to be closed out from being able to use the beach after hours.
So I have not, but the reality is this. It's not just them. It would impact everybody, and the situation is at that point, there is nobody who's enforcing it. So if that gets out of control and we have an issue and it's reported to the Board of Health, Alicia can correct me if I'm wrong. I think we got 3 strikes and we were out. So, it's one of those things. We need to just have something. And the conversation is, do we want to do something to give the police the ability to clear the beach or not? That's really what the conversation is. And I don't think, in this case, it doesn't matter how various neighbors feel about access to the beach. It's what the rule we make for one goes for all, and we are in a very different time than normal. Under normal circumstances, would it be nice if everybody who skirts down there after hours helps us out and, helps keep the beach nice and neat and operating? That would be great. But this is not about that. This is about keeping everybody safe, because people who don't want to pay for the passes, people who are out of town residents and are looking for a place to go are crashing the beach. Like I said, it's only been one instance so far. It's been the first hot week of the summer. And it was brought to our attention by a resident. And this is why I'm asking you guys to address it. We don't have to do anything, but it gives the police the option to be able to enforce clearing the beach, as right now they don't. It's not dusk until 9 o'clock.
And I would encourage you guys to go down there. I mean, I live in the area, and I've definitely taken a drive through the parking lot at like 9 o'clock at night, and you're going to see, a group of teenagers that's like hiding in the corner drinking, or you're going to see, a group of people from out of town that are swimming at 9 o'clock at night. It's dark. So, those are the type of things that we need the police to be able to go in and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing these things. And so it just being able to do this. And again, this is temporary. We've said this on the agenda. We're asking for the temporary request to help the police enforce the COVID guidelines. So, when we get back to normalcy, we can then, go back to the dusk till dawn. That'd be awesome to be able to go back to that. But at this point in time, if that's the one thing that's really holding the police back from, enforcing some of these things, then, we want to change and amend that so they're able to help us. Because at this point in time, the whole focus on the pandemic is, we do not want to spread this virus more. And if people are not wearing the masks, if they're not abiding by the 6-foot distance, if they're, touching things and all that stuff, it's not helping to curb that. So that's the point, is that we want to make the best effort moving forward to be able to do that, to protect everybody that we can at this point in time.
Plus, we don't want to have 3 strikes and have to close the beach, and and then everybody suffers for the acts of a few. Because right now it just seems like there's a time frame from when we stop manning it till dusk that it's, I don't want to say the Wild West, but nobody has any authority to enforce anything. So I think we're almost setting ourselves up not for failure, but I mean, if 3 strikes were out, why give anybody a chance to cause us to have strikes, I guess.
And I think it goes back to the same thing we said with the playgrounds. Everything is discretionary. So like today I left the beach, there was probably 15 people there, right? I think that we can all agree that that would be one of those times that we could say, okay, everything's fine here. Doesn't necessarily need to be cleared at 7 o'clock. It's something that we have the ability to enforce if need be.
Right.
I don't know if everybody agrees with that statement, but that's how, in this particular situation, I would view that.
No, I think it's a good idea. I mean, discretion is a wonderful thing, right? So if the police get a call that there's a problem, at least they have the authority to do something, because right now they don't have any authority. So it really, I think you almost need to give them the authority by changing the bylaw or the rules now.
Did you talk to the PD about this? About having the teeth to be able to push back when it closes, the beach closes.
Yeah, that was where this all stemmed from, was Jeff and I speaking about this, and he was the one who brought up the fact that there's not really much they can do because it's dawn to dusk. So the trespass order can really only be enforced by his officers dawn to dusk right now.
It sounds like it would be a good idea for all the points that you guys have mentioned. So.
Okay, I mean, so I guess we just need a motion for.
Do you have a time frame?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Tim, do you have a specific time frame that you want to suggest?
Yeah.
So I think dawn is fine personally, because the people who are waking up at dawn are, people who are going swimming and stuff like that. I don't think that, many people are going to rush the beach before dawn just to get their spot there. But I think dawn to maybe 7. I think 7's very fair in the summertime. And like I said, it's a discretionary time if we need. And that way, the other thing is I can rework the numbers. And if I need to keep a staff member at the snack shack to hold down the fort until, the police can take over if need be, then so be it. That's what we'll do.
Just clarifying, it would be flip-flop. So it would start at 7 p.m. and end at dawn.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of sun today.
Yeah.
Look at those cheeks.
A lot of rain today. Yeah, however we want to phrase it, but I think that, I think for the time being, that would go for all the parks. I think especially with Castle opening, that's going to need to be another place that, if the police need to use the discretion to clear that out as well, or us, I think it would behoove us to say for the duration of the pandemic or whatever we want to do, that it's 7 p.m. Now, the reality of that situation is we'll need to change that eventually once daylight savings and sundown change anyway. But for now, I think that would be the best bet.
All right.
So when we update the signage to include those hours, that would be another thing. We didn't discuss that, but it seemed like you would have to update the signage for that.
Yeah, I would either creating different signage, or I would do something, because that's something where I would have to put on the bottom the police take note. Yeah.
Basically,
So,
I would recreate the time signs on 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, laminate them, and I would double side tape it to the signs that are already up there.
yeah.
Yeah, because they can't enforce a no trespass unless there's notice, and so either
Correct.
somebody telling them or it being displayed.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
You want a motion, Fred?
I would love one.
I am going to make a motion to have the hours of operation for the beach and parks in Littleton effectively closed from 7 p.m. till dawn until further notice.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on.
A second.
All right, all in favor. Sean,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and I'm aye as well. The motion Carries.
One last thing that I do want to clarify on here is that we are not opening the basketball courts. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I will have to work with the highway department, or I know we have some snow fencing to figure out how we're going to block those off before I can actually open the playground. All that has to be set up ahead of time.
Sure. I'll qualify it, if, at a point that the youth group for basketball comes and approaches you with a plan. But the ball's in their, no pun intended, but the ball's in their court.
Nice, Mike.
Well, and that's the thing, like
You have to go, Mike.
if we create that reservation with them, we can make sure that they get access, and that's easy. But it is going to take a little bit of work trying to get the snow fencing up around all of that to make sure that it stays closed. So yeah. Okay.
All right. Hey now.
Anything else?
I did have a couple extra questions. Kevin, when's Kevin going to start? Could he? Because he could have been at tonight's meeting, right?
He has to get sworn in.
Oh, okay. So he just hasn't at this point. Okay.
So I talked to Kevin at about 2:00. Kevin had a meeting that he was in. He is going to opt to take the 3-year term, and he will get to Diane as soon as possible to figure out what he has to do to get sworn in, whether it's via Zoom or whether he actually comes see Diane.
Yeah, she sent an email out. Where did it go? We have to make an appointment with her so that we can get into town hall, and she's got to do a letters of appointment for us and needs to get all the paperwork together. So she was looking to start doing the swearing in, whatever it is, later this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And what about so that means there's
Now, speaking of which, before we go, on the website, sorry, my term ends on a different day than Mike's.
Than me?
Yeah, I'm just saying we're elected on the same day.
Huh.
It's just on the
Diane
Park and Rec
about that.
website.
Yeah. Because
Huh.
Diane's usually the one that updates that.
Okay, along with all those pictures of Gary. But
That's me. Sorry. You guys are never around for me to take pictures.
Prima donna.
So
So
that means there's still one position
That's
still
correct.
open, correct? Okay.
Yep.
And
Yep.
is there I know Mike had talked about possibly being willing to come back, another chair, spot. Is there anything?
So that's a possibility as well. I know Saul, that was on the conversation earlier. He was a write-in that had almost got elected. So, he's an individual that, could potentially take that position as well.
Okay.
So,
So the other two were Dustin Neild and actually Mark Saucier reached out to me today to possibly be nominated. He was going to call you today, Mike.
Mark? Wow. Okay.
So, So at this point, we would have to go through the appointment process.
Sure.
That goes through the Board of Selectmen and all of that. And then that individual, if they choose to stay, would go into the election the next time. We're going to add something, Tim?
So I got something I want to ask with my conversation with Mark, but I think it might have to wait till another meeting. So we don't have a new business thing on here, do we?
We don't have a new business thing on here.
Okay. That's fine.
You sure?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you guys know, and Alicia, if we can discuss it or not, we can. So the Littleton Road Race, they're going to do it virtually. We're going to partner with them to run it through our software system, and they're looking to make a donation to Park and Rec, either to the scholarship fund or to like renovations to Fay Park or something like that. So they had just wanted input on where that donation could possibly go or where we best felt that it should go. So we were having that conversation today. But that is one thing that at some point we'll have to decide. But we are going to open those registrations for them on Monday of next week.
I mean, yeah. So, that's something that we can talk about at another meeting, but I think, both options are great options to either go with the youth scholarship fund or, helping out with Bay Park, because there's definitely some fixes down there that we need to work on. I think the last just piece of information to share with you guys is that, Tim and John have been in communication with our Board of Health agent, Jim Gareffi, and it sounds like Camp T will be able to actually go swimming this summer. Hey! So that is it's a huge thing. So yeah, so we're working towards that. Tim's got a plan in, and we just have to make a little bit of some updates to the space, and then we should be good to go. But yeah, so that's very exciting news.
I assume pretty much all the participants in camp would want to go swimming, but will there be, will there be an option if there is, a contingent that doesn't want to take advantage of the lake?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they've always worked it that way. So, they'll have the groups go down together, but there's always like a counselor that'll sit and do like sandcastles or play games and things like that with groups that don't want to swim. So,
Okay.
yeah, that happens all the time. Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
We all set?
Yeah, all the, I think, stuff I've got to add in.
Can I just add one thing real quick? Just so in case you guys know any Rotary members, the Rotary voted this morning to donate 10 scholarships to Camp T. So just wanted to give you guys that information to thank them.
That's
Great.
really awesome. All right. It's all in your hands, guys.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna make you wait. I second it.
All in favor? Sean?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. We're adjourned. Cancel the recording.
Okay.
Nice work,